Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another preview episode of Alliance of the Sacred Sons. This is for 0.9.1. Now, we've already started. We've already gone past the game setup because, frankly, nothing has changed there. It's not going to be a very long video, but I do want to focus on three key areas. The tutorial, which obviously you already see on the screen. Some of the new combat elements in the military system. And then finally, some UI changes. So, without further ado, we'll get right to it. So as you can see, we have begun the process of adding a tutorial, which is exciting. The current release has over 60 different, pages, so to speak, or items that you can update. So it works in two ways. As you go through the game, as you open up screens, as you open up views, your Grand Vizier will pop up and give you tips and advice as you go deeper into the game. So that's one way. So when you first open the game, you're going to see a welcome to your reign, greetings Emperor, and welcome to the first day of what I hope is your long and glorious reign. Haha. I am Crassus, your humble and ever loyal Grand Vizier. So a little bit of introduction. You can see you can have multiple pages. And then you kind of go into it. What's my goal? It's kind of top level things. And I'm not going to read these. If you play the game, if you have the game, pre-early access, you can definitely access this. How should I start? Gives you some advice. Going to the house next to the screen, the lower left order, check it out. Sounds like some pretty good advice. And then we have what are called critical concepts. So as you go into the game, you have concepts that are critical to the game, and depending on the view that you're in or the mode that you're in. And these are things that are key elements or key ideas of Alliance of the Sacred Sons. So hopefully this will give people a little bit more information about how to play and about what things are. All right, so then now we're in the command mode overview, which is what we're in. So we're in the overview command mode. So let's do that. Let's go see the new house screen. So we've updated some more UI. As you can see, we have pop-up screens. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them now have additional information, and that more will be added, literally daily. Talks about the house nexus screen, about what you do. As you can see, it's a lot cleaner. We now have an overview screen that kind of gives you a top-level glance of your power, treasury, how many holdings you have, your current state, and then your emperor reputation. So let's take a look at Waldegrave. We hate Waldegrave. All right, so here's the detail screen. Tells you a little bit more about kind of what to do. Critical concept, emperor reputation. So this is what I'm talking about. As you go into things and start seeing things, Crassus will give you information on specific information. So what's cool about this screen is you can now access, similar to the old screen, you have the traditions, you have relationships, you have your power, tension. You'll be able to assign an inquisitor from this screen, and you can kind of see, you can kind of go from house to house, and then of course you can go back to the overview screen, see it all, and then of course you can always get out with a right click. So just exciting stuff, and we hope by the next update, 0.9.2, our goal is to have every single element in the game converted to the new UI. At that point, we're going to start working on the user experience and making sure that we're bringing information. There's a lot of information in Alliance of the Sacred Sons. We want to make sure that we get it to players in the best way possible. So we're definitely going to start looking for some feedback on that. You guys that have the game is far enough along now. You can definitely play now with the tutorial, and we're going to be making some tutorial videos. We really want you guys to start playing it and get some feedback on kind of what we're doing. Okay, so we talked about the tutorial. You also have these little eyes that are up here. So you can see that they correspond with different elements depending on what view you're on. These are the main UI elements. So let's say I want to see, well, what does this do? So I click on the little eye, the main status display, and it tells you what it does. Now, once you got it, you notice it goes away, and it will actually go into your encyclopedia. That's not quite implemented yet, but the final version, anything that you click on or open will be added to your encyclopedia for display. So we want to know what this is. Oh, it's the command mode selection bar. Cool. This is what it does. So we're going to kind of show off the military system now. Now, we've added quite a bit since the last update. So we're going to go ahead and change the military command mode. So of course, we're now in command mode military. And then we talk about logistical networks, which is important, very important concept. So we're going to zoom in. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about combat, because that's something that was missing in the last update. So what we're going to do, we're going to go right off the bat, and we're going to create a invasion force. So we see we have our different setups. So now we have light transports. We now have transports in the game. We now have armies in the game. We're going to go ahead and just create this one, even though it's not fully loaded. You see it has a transport value of 6. that means this force can transport 6 armies, basically. So we'll go ahead and assemble the force. So now it's ready. So now, when we click here, you see we have a new force, and now we have a new setup. We have armies. So right now there are 0 armies because we haven't loaded any armies. We haven't set a command to invade yet. So we're going to do that. Now, normally we would probably never do it this way, but we would probably send a force in to kind of clear out any opposition first orbitally. But I really kind of want to show you guys the setup. So we're going to go to an attack, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on Waldgrave, which is kind of crazy because they're a militaristic house. But like I say, this is just to show what we're doing. So we go ahead and click. So now we have some new options. So we're going to capture, because these are all these are attack options. All right, so we have Walden. You see our success is not great. We've added a few new things to the attack. So we're going to go ahead and click. So now we have an invasion screen that pops up. So we have different aggression types. Basically, the more aggressive you are, the more that the general in charge of the force will press their attack. We'll kind of get into more of that later, but we'll go ahead and go aggressive for now. We'll go ahead and use orbital bombardment, and then we'll use a force level. So you can see that right now the game is calculated for just the minimum amount of force, which is basically a 1-to-1 ratio. We need 7 forces in order to take on the forces at Waldgrave, or on Walden. If we wanted a normal, we would need 13. Now red means we don't have 13. This number could be in green, yellow, or red. Green means you have the forces and they're available at the planet where the force is at. Yellow means you have the forces, but you don't have them necessarily at the planet that you're stationed at. So the game actually automatically will pull those armies in towards you. They'll transport them using they're not on the map, but basically there's an ETA involved. And so you'll get them in a certain number of turns and pulling from other planets. But we don't have any beyond this planet. I did a small setup just to kind of speed things along. So of course then we have significant and overwhelming. So of course we don't have anywhere near that amount of force. So we're going to have to stick with minimum. And then we can see warning insufficient transport capacity. As you recall, we only had 6 transport capacity. So as you can see, it's very easy now. One of the things we really talked about is streamlining management of, one of the things I hate about 4X games, how hard it is just to kind of set up your invasions and transports and, have your logistics, and it's just a pain. And so as an emperor, you wouldn't do that. You would just say, hey, I want Walden. I need it bad, and you can spend anything you want to get it. So that would be the equivalent of setting the force level to overwhelming and the aggression to aggressive. So we'll go ahead and accept. So now we have confirmed, just like we do. All right, so now when we go in and we check our status, you can see we're now loading. We're loading units at Walden. We've also changed the screen a little bit. We've added a couple of new things. We'll kind of show a little bit more of that when we look at combat. So as you can see, there's actually a waiting force here. So, all right. So you can see there is a force waiting. There's a destroyer, a cutter, and a combat destroyer. So we've got some opposition. And again, if we were playing for real, most likely we would send the combat force in first to kind of clean things up before the orbital drop. But I really just kind of want to get this shown. All right. So, let's kind of go into the system view and planet view. So the system view hasn't changed all that much. So you have a military system view, critical concept shipyard. Shipyards are very important now. This is how you build things. So as you can see, we've kind of updated this a little bit. Okay, so now here we've added the planet screen, military planet view. So we have overview and region list. So the region list, the overview shows the type of development, average defense of the planet. So this is a Terran planet, which means it has kind of a mix of hills, plains, water, mountains, etc. And that kind of all averages out. When you take all the regions of the planet, it's about 100%, where 100% is average defense. And then you have total planetary defense, defensive mod. There's no ground military because I basically just took them all and loaded them into the ship above. But there are 4 forces orbiting. It has a planetary cannon network of a level 3, and that's a new setting also. So planetary cannon networks basically are, they're basically like extra defenses, and they help kind of shoot down ships from orbit. All right, so we look at the region list. So this is, again, new. So what we've done, we have our most populous regions at the top. As you can see, we kind of have a new, I'll go ahead and click on it to keep it there. So we now have a control bar at the top. So right now I control 100% of New Terra, so there's no control going on. I have a 339 overall defense rating. Now right now this region is under my control. There are now control points. Planets are won or lost by controlling regions, and regions have control points. And each region has 50 control points. And you gain control points basically by causing damage, so to speak, to the region after you eliminate any defending armies. And regions do have some innate defense. They have their pops. They have some innate, even towns and cities kind of muster a defense. So even if you don't have an army there, you can still kind of take down, if you have a weak army going in, they may be able to take them down. No threat right now, no combat taking place. So you can kind of see that. So okay, so we'll go ahead and get out of that. All right, so let's go ahead and advance a turn. Let's go ahead and set our budget, kind of things that we're doing. These are one of the few screens that haven't yet been updated. All this will be updated in the next 9.2, be in about 5 weeks or so. Very exciting. All right, so I'm just kind of flipping through. All right, so we'll go ahead and go to the next screen. All right. All right, so as you can see, very quick. We continue to optimize the game for very quick. All right, so now we've got some exciting things going on. So we've got 2 forces in orbit. So you see my armies are now 0 because I've dropped them. So let's see if there's been any damage. So as it turns out, yes, there's been a little bit of damage. Now, I had a very, very few. This is not a combat force, so they probably weren't going to be doing a lot of damage. But you can see now each individual ships, there's a fairly sophisticated targeting algorithm. Basically, you're not going to have huge ships taking on tiny ships or tiny ships taking on huge ships unless there's no other choice. And then there's kind of a priority. Combat ships will always fight first, and then scout ships, and then support ships, and finally like command and transport ships. So as you can see, the scout ship is kind of a support ship, so it didn't take any damage, while the command destroyer was the #1 target. So if we look at my other force, look at my force, you can see the command destroyer took some, the cutters took some, but the light transport did not, because they're considered to be farthest in the back. They're dropping, they're kind of in the center. If you want to think of it as like a, like a carrier battle group, they're the carrier. They're the ones in the center, along with kind of the command keeping it. So, all right, so let's see what's going on the planet's surface. So we've dropped our troops. So now we're going to go ahead and click in. So now, as you can see, still Waldegrave has 100% control of Walden. So, all right. So now, as you can see, under attack. So we have now armies in this region. So we actually have armies in 2 regions, because we don't just drop. There's a kind of an algorithm that determines how much resistance, depending on how many your aggression level. It'll set an odds value. So if you're cautious, it won't attack a region unless you have odds of 3 to 1 or better. And then if you're aggressive, they'll basically do it at even odds. So you can actually take more control, take more territories quicker, but you may lose more troops. So that's kind of something you set with a war plan. So you can see under attack. Now, one thing we haven't added yet, we will show kind of a screen, and we're still kind of debating how best to do this, to show kind of the battle on the in each region, so you can kind of see the damage and things that have taken place. But we'll go ahead and just move to the next turn, just to kind of show that process. So you have a battle raging above Walden, and then you have ground combat raging on Walden. So all right, so let's see what we've got here. So as you can see, they're really not, they're defending the planet. But since I have so few, I really don't have, I basically have just these few cutters, and they do very little damage. I mean, their combat power is 5, so that's almost nothing. So this is going to be a very inconsequential battle. That's one of the things that I'm looking to kind of update, is kind of increase the output. So let's go back to Walden. Now you see, okay, so now we've got a true battle going on. Now they've kind of, last turn was kind of about them dropping, onto the planet, getting situated. No battle had actually taken place yet. That's why you saw control at 50-50. So now you can see Foster's under attack, but oh look, Schultz is now, whoops, let me click on it. Oh, come on. Now you can see Schultz is at 150 control. What that means is now I have control. So basically control, if you get it down below 0, then you take control of the region. And then control starts to come back up the longer that you hold it. So there's no threat because I now control it. And as you can see, control has very slightly shifted away from Waldgrove and now to me. So now I'm going to go probably over here because now my armies are going to be moving. Armies have movement points depending on what kind they are. Usually they have 3 movement points. And a movement point can be used to attack. It can be used to repair and kind of reconstitute, or it can be used to move to a different province. So, or not province, region, I'm sorry. So right now, okay, so they've decided to go to this ocean one because there is an army there. As you can see, there's one army. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to go to the more populous and more defended regions first, take care of those, and then kind of sweep up the rest. So you don't have to control the entire planet. You don't have to get this down to 0. You just have to get it to 50%. And it's not a total number of regions that you control because some regions are more valuable. The regions up here are more valuable than others. They have more pop and they also have more development. So it weights the development of the regions that you control. So, you know, if I take a bunch of ocean regions where one person lives there, or a mountain region where nobody lives there, that's really not going to make much of a difference. So, and again, this is all kind of out of your hands. This is your War Prime is actually directing this. So, as is consistent with the top level design of Alliance of the Sacred Sons, you are the Emperor. You're not in the weeds. You basically say, this is what I want. This is the force I need. You make that happen. You build the armies. You build the forces. You give the War Prime the tools they need, but you let them do their job. And that's really a cornerstone of the game. So, so we'll go ahead and back out again. We'll go ahead and just go one more turn. So, like I say, this is a very focused video. You know, and as you can see, like say here's some new. This is a system label. Kind of shows you that. Here's the system governor display, so you don't see those things if you're obviously not in that view. So we'll go back in here one more time. Still 96%, but now we go to the region list, and there's kind of a bug here in the region list. So okay, so here's 150 control, 50-50 control, 50-50 control. So they're kind of consolidating their attack. So as you can see, the armies have actually moved out. Looks like we destroyed the army. Remember, there was one here, and now there's none. So it looks like we took them down. So next turn, we should start being able to control the region, start knocking that down. All right, well, that is the major points that I wanted to show. Like I said, it's a short video, but hope you enjoyed it, and we'll have more soon. Thank you.